Welcome to the Crosscheck, business aviation squawk sheet that uncovers the stories, challenges, and careers shaping the industry today. I'm your host, Rob Hoffman.
And I'm Ian Lump.
Today, we're joined by someone whose trajectory in aviation is nothing short of inspiring. Eliane Cotran, Vice President Commercial at Azora and a 2024 NBAA Top 40 Under 40 award recipient. Ellie has built a remarkable career across fleet strategy, aircraft transactions, and global market development, all while serving as a mentor and advocate for women in aviation. Ellie, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Allie. So let's just start off with the good stuff. Can you share your journey in the male dominated world of BizAv and the part it played in the development of your resilience?
Where do you want me to start? I've
Start at
been,
the beginning.
well, I've been in this industry for quite a long time. I could say 17 years now. I've been connected to aviation. I started off as an engineer in engineering, and I did what you call a co-op. I don't know if you call it that in the States, but in Canada you call it a co-op. I'm Canadian, so I worked at Pratt and Whitney during my co-op and during my internship, and that just got me to flourish in aviation. I never got out of it after that. So I graduated in industrial engineering with a specialization in aerospace design. And after that, I joined a company that does interiors of business jets. So I got on a big project when they were there. They were in three different buildings, had to develop and redesign their production line to be in one big building. So that does come across as a little bit tough in your first big project as you start. You're modifying production workers and their space and their, as they know it. So that was quite difficult. That was quite challenging, but that did get me through and get me started off at the right page, because I then became a quality supervisor in the company. So I grew quite quickly into a leadership position, and I think the leadership saw that in me, especially through the struggles of the big project that I had. So I went on to then getting a career at Bombardier. So I shifted on to Bombardier and actually worked on the C Series, developed the C Series onto its first flight, entry into service, all that fun stuff. So that was really interesting, extremely male dominated, I could say, at Bombardier, and especially in engineering department. And then I worked my way to a very different side of it. So I did customer account management for Africa and the Middle East. So you can say I got a lot of different obstacles in that sense, because I also touched on, as well as the male dominated industry, it hit different cultures. And once you hit Africa and the Middle East, it was a bit of a culture shock. And I could say that because you walk in a room and they don't look at you as a woman. I was there telling them how to do their maintenance programs, what to change and what to modify. And I had to work a lot harder than the other guys in the room to prove myself and prove that, I know what I'm talking about. So that was quite a challenge, but I'm no short of loving challenges. So did that quite well. I was well supported by the team. So the team understood where I came from, and they definitely showed some support too. So that helps, having a strong team behind you that can support you through those obstacles. And then I actually went to work with an Austrian company, and they also did business jet interiors. So I went back to the business jet interiors, and I was in charge of all of North America, which was kind of different than Africa and the Middle East. And I started a business plan for them to open up a facility in Fort Lauderdale. So I moved to Fort Lauderdale about 5 years ago by myself, no family, no friends, just by myself. So a big leap of faith. And during COVID, so add that on to the crazy mix that I did to myself. Yeah. And then they actually flourished and opened up a 10,000 square foot facility, production equipment, employees, about 10 of them before I left. And then I met my current CEO and founder, John Evans, who is a huge advocate for women in aviation. And we had one dinner, one conversation, and he said, I need a strong woman leader on my team. And just those words were some words that I love to hear, because I was in a really difficult situation at my previous job. So hearing that a leader really appreciates, a woman sitting at the table a woman's opinion. And so he gave me the chance and the opportunity, which I didn't know anything about aircraft leasing. I know a lot about airplanes and I know a lot about how they work and operations, but yeah, I didn't really know anything about
This
aircraft
was a
leasing.
complete pivot taking this role on.
Yeah, complete pivot, and he gave me a chance. He was like, you're really smart. You're driven. So that's really what I want to see in my leadership team. And he's like, you'll figure it out. So I did, and 3 years into it, and here I am still at Azora and loving it.
Well, there's no question that smart and driven people, it seems like across the board in this industry and many others, they always end up on their feet. There's a uniform factor over there, which I've noticed across the board. That said, obviously you had your challenges and a lot of lessons learned. Can you kind of drill down a little deeper into the specifics of your cohorts of other women in business aviation? Obviously, there are more challenges abroad than there are here. But talk to us a little more about what you're doing to change all of that right now.
Sure. So one of the biggest things that I'm a big advocate for, and I tell women all the time, is just make sure that when you walk into a room and when you sit at that table, you deserve to be at that table. And it's a mindset shift that we have to have. So when, and don't get me wrong, no offense to men, it's absolutely great to have men also at the table. So, but it's just to be able to empower women. And when you're sitting at that table, it's really you deserve to be at that table. And when a man sits at that table, he doesn't think that way. He doesn't think whether he deserves to be at that table or not. When he speaks, he doesn't think 5 times before he says something or asks a question, but a woman does. And that's one thing that I always advocate for. You need to be confident when you walk into that room. You need to be confident when you sit at that table, and you're there because you deserve to be. You're there for a reason. So I think the biggest thing that I always advocate and tell women is you really need to shift your mindset. And it's not about genders when you walk into that room. Right now, when I walk into a room and I sit at that table, I don't see gender. I see skill and I see people that I can learn from. So when I ask my questions, it's not about, what are they going to think of me? It's really what knowledge am I going to learn? How am I going to teach them? And what values am I going to bring to the table? So I put away the genders now, more so now than before, because I've developed such a strong confidence in myself and in what I bring. But that's also that mindset shift that I like to bring to other women. And I've been a women's coach and, in health and fitness for so long, and it's all the same. It all falls into the same mix. Whether you want to lose weight, or you want to, show up and grow in a company, it all falls down to the same thing, your self-confidence. And it's not that 20 pounds that's going to make you gain your self-confidence. It's really about your mindset.
Yeah. So, once again, BizAv, we cover this on a lot of shows. In a certain way, it's one of the most advanced industries out there, and at the same time, way behind the times. Uh, Clearly, you've developed your self confidence and resilience, and you're inspiring others as well. But has the industry caught up? Is there a glass ceiling there, or do you feel now that you've established your place, your seat at the table, that others are listening to you, and you can basically, there's no limit to where you can ascend to?
There are always going to be challenges. So I won't say that the way is paved and it's completely great and it's, crystal clear. There are struggles. There are still struggles there. And I think that, even myself, I still feel it. It's how you overcome them when you come into a room, rather than, I don't dwell on it as much as I used to. It's there, it's apparent. I still have it. Many women still have it and come to me and talk to me about it. But I do feel like there are more and more males who are advocates for women in aviation and women in general empowerment, which that's going to help even more. So I know a lot of men leaders that are mentoring women. And I think that helps too, because it teaches them as well. It teaches them about, what's the mindset of a woman, and why do women think that way. So I know some mentors that like to mentor women because of that, because they're learning out of it too. So that's something that has shifted completely from, 10 years ago to today, that we didn't see. So that's something that I definitely see a shift. There's definitely always room for improvement, but I do see a shift in from 10 years ago to today.
Yeah, I would piggyback off of what you said. I think the mentoring part of it, right, has changed a lot in what goes on, but I see it with the groups that I help put together for mentoring and the stuff that I've been participating in with NBAA young professionals. There's a lot more of a partner relationship when you have a man and a woman in a mentoring mentee relationship now, where 10, 15 years ago it was probably more like a father daughter type of relationship. And that's unfortunate because that's not, the best way to look at it. Now they are taking it seriously and getting as much out of it from their mentee than they were previously, because the foot is to the fire a little bit more now. You have to take that seriously. And I think that by necessity has helped, but you're 100% right. I hope more and more people do take that cross-gender mentoring relationship up and um, do more to learn from the other people that aren't like us in the industry.
Yeah, and speaking of the NBAA 40 under 40, you're obviously were recognized. Have you used that platform to mentor others?
Yeah, I have, and there has been other opportunities too for me to mentor other women. I do a lot of women's talks, and at the end of the women's talks, I always welcome women to come talk to me at the end of them. And that's also where I get, women that I touched or said something that resonated well with them, and they really wanna mentor. So that's also a platform where I do get mentees. I I I don't like to have too many mentees at the same time, and I've done the same thing while I was personal training and as a coach. I do limit myself to a certain amount just because I'm that person and I give my whole all to,
Yeah.
all
Don't
my
want to spread
mentees.
yourself too thin. Yeah.
No, and
Quality.
as busy as I get, I don't wanna be that person either that's, "Oh, I have, 10 mentees." You can't do that. If you really wanna be a true mentee and a true supporter, that's really hard to do, so I do limit, but I always help them in any way that I can, even if I'm not able to be their mentor, whether it's, email me and I'll give you suggestions, I'll give you input. If you wanna jump on a call, we'll do that, and I'm always up for that, but having, a mentee, I definitely limit it for sure.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
smart.
there's no question about it. There's only so many hours in the day. It's quality over quantity. And you want to help everyone, but you have to draw the line somewhere. Otherwise, no one's getting the quality mentorship that they're looking for, and no one really wins. Um,
Exactly.
let's pivot just real quick right now to away from the mentorship and away from the leadership role. I want to talk shop right now. I want to hear more about Azora and the business as well, and the business of partnership. So talk to us more about what Azora does and why it's so unique.
So I'll start off with our founder and CEO that I talked about before. John Evans is a phenomenal leader, an amazing entrepreneur that has a vision and goes for it. So this is, I believe, his third company. So he used to have a few leasing companies that have sold in the past, and Azora was founded in 2016. And John did bring some previous employees from Jetscape, which was the previous company that he had, and so started building on that. And he started building an empire, I could tell you, because Azora, when I joined 3 years ago, we were about 20 employees, and right now we're creeping up on 70. So in 3 years, we've grown exponentially. Similarly on our fleet side, so we had I think about 70 aircraft when I joined, and then right now we are at 170 and with another 100 on order and
Whoa,
ready for
that's some
delivery.
serious growth.
Yeah, so in about 2-3 years we'll be at 275. So definitely growing quite rapidly. John is also a huge advocate for employees, younger employees. So we are quite young, hungry, ambitious employees, which is good because I could say it's like a startup company. We are backed by Oak Tree Capital, so we have a lot of funding from them, which has helped us grow exponentially. Yeah, so we lease aircraft to big airlines around the world. We are more of a regional lessor, so we have a lot of A220s, which is a big side why I love it, because that's a former C series. So
The
definitely
Bombardier connection, yes.
so I know that aircraft a little well. And then we do have a lot of E-jets, so E190s, E195s, E1s, and E2s. And then we do have a few onesie twosies here and there of our assets. We bought a very opportunistic company, which is really neat to see as someone that, eventually wants to be an entrepreneur. It's really neat to see John's vision coming into place. So 2 years ago, I think now, we acquired a company called Voyager, and they had 13 wide body aircraft. So everyone was wondering, why is John buying wide body aircraft? We're a regional lessor, but it was an opportunity that, we couldn't pass up. It was the right time to buy wide bodies, and we were able to. We sold them at good prices, so it was the right time. So yeah, John's very opportunistic. He has a really great business vision, so we keep growing, and it's exciting to be part of the journey, and it's exciting to see it, because eventually that's what I want to do. So it's nice to have a leader that, you aspire to be like.
That's exciting. Talking about your future makes me want to learn a little bit more about where you're at today. I know we spent 6 hours together on the golf course in Vegas, and I feel like I don't know anything about you. So what is your role now, and how are you using your skills and abilities to develop relationships and talk to people outside of your bubble to succeed at that?
So it's a great question. A lot of people I used to work with at Bombardier actually are in the leasing space right now. So I have definitely pulled on them at the beginning to start understanding the leasing industry, because I had no idea what it was about. So right now I am vice president of commercial. What does that mean? I wear a lot of hats. Um, Essentially, so I do focus a lot on aircraft trading. So I support buying and selling aircraft from our portfolio. So if we do have some aircraft that are better off our books, and better to be sold, and it's the right time to sell, then we sell them off. And then if other leasing companies want to sell aircraft, and they're better with us, like I said, we focus a lot on E-jets, so a lot of leasing companies understand that. It's a very interesting, because it's a little different than business aviation, and I'm so familiar with the business aviation style of everything. So buying and selling planes from another leasing company is a little bit not familiar to me. So that was a bit on a different scale for me to understand. So that's how it is on the commercial side. So when we buy and sell planes, it's not directly with an owner or operator. It's mostly with leasing companies. It can be with airlines, but usually it's been with leasing companies. So yeah, that's one thing that, I also had to get out of my bubble, because my industry and my network is highly business aviation, and getting out there in the commercial space was different. But really, it's all the same. You get out there, you network, you speak to the right people, and I did. I went on and I tried to understand a bit more. I played the card. I am new in this industry, and I'm not new in aviation, and I'm not new with this plane, but I'm very new in leasing. And people in both commercial and business are so open to support you and help you, and the same thing in the whole industry. Everyone's been quite open and quite helpful to help me and support me through my role. So now I'm pretty set in it. I think I understand it a lot more than I used to. And my also a big goal at the beginning, why John hired me initially, was to grow the business aviation platform at Azora. So that is one thing that still still definitely working on. We have two phenoms. We sold one last year, but we do have our, toe in the water to be able to build up that business for leasing. Global Jet Capital is out there, but they are doing something a little bit different than what we might want to do and dip our toe into. So definitely there is a missing space in the industry about leasing for business jets, and I definitely want to tap into that more and more now and in the future.
What's the state of the industry right now? What's the economic outlook?
In the commercial space or in the business jet space?
Well, yeah, obviously there's crossover here. Let's stick with the commercial leasing space right now.
I mean, it's doing really well with the regional space side. We've actually developed an engine program at Azora, which is something that I think is pretty big for both segments of aviation. And we found an opportunity there that we've started to tap into, and there is a lot of need for leasing engines actually and having engine programs. So we've bought engines. We've bought a lot of engines. We bought 36 engines from JetBlue recently, and we are going to be building up that space because we do see very similar to the whole industry. We do see a lot of downtime in terms of maintenance wise, whether it's, overhauls for engines, not finding, supply chain efforts. We tore down the first A220 ever, which was painful for me to see, but we worked on that with Delta DMS, Delta Material Services. We did that with them, and we're actually tearing down three aircraft, and that's because we need to fund the supply chain. Right now, the A220 is struggling a little bit on the supply chain side. It takes a long time to get parts, which we want to help our own customers. We want to help the platform be successful. So we did tear down three of these aircraft. And then with the engines, we leased out the engines, which we found out to be uh, quite good in terms of returns compared to the full aircraft. So yeah, we started doing that, and that's where we started buying more engines because that industry and that segment is definitely profitable.
So just so I get this correct, so you're saying it makes sense to cannibalize these A220s that may not necessarily been at the end of their service life just because you're so desperate for parts?
Yeah, they were actually 2018. So again, really, really tough to see as I did work on those specific aircraft. But yes, it was. And usually on the aircraft, when you're the first to move it and the first to tear it down, you will make decent profit on it. And because we have so many A220s in our portfolio, we really wanted to support our own customers. We are looking at, more A220s. So the more and more we can help the supply chain, the better it is for us and our customers.
It sounds like a lot of what we're talking about are just, and you've mentioned this time and time again with your CEO, but opportunities, being opportunistic, looking for the right fit at the right time. And even if it's tearing down a perfectly good aircraft to lease out the engines, that's a great opportunity for something that's definitely needed in the current place that you're at, right? But what are some other kind of interesting opportunities that you've come across within this business or outside of Azora?
I mean, it's a good question. I can say when I opened up the facility for FLIS, the Austrian company, that was a huge opportunity to tap into the So in the uh, I'll shift out of the leasing and onto interiors of business jets. There was a huge opportunity to, especially through COVID, when all the aircrafts were down, to look into refurbishing interiors of business jets. So that was an opportunity that we definitely saw, and I saw myself, hence the move, was to let's work on that. Most business jets are down right now, so let's refurb the interiors and have a facility to go to. And a lot of it was we needed to be here, we needed to be in place. So being in Austria or being in Montreal is very different with, the FAA and all the certifications for business jet interiors. So to be able to be on site in place and do in situ repairs for these customers was a huge opportunity that we saw that really helped the business, that really helped FLIS. So that's definitely something that, I like to, I wouldn't say take advantage of these situations, but you look at the bigger picture when you go through situations like that and see where the opportunities lie.
just out of curiosity here, you kind of let's talk about the future right now. You kind of glanced upon this entrepreneurial spirit that clearly been bitten by the bug. So, talk to us about what's next for you in the next few years.
Well, so I'm still learning. I'm a big sponge right now. I'm still learning at Azora. And the more and more I learn, the more and more it's something that I want to do. And I know that I'll be with John Evans for a long time, whether, he's an investor in whatever I do next, or but I'll definitely, I know that I've found someone that I, want to be connected to for a long time. His passion, his drive, and his vision definitely can support me, especially as my mentor. But I think that's where I see more and more of a gap in the industry, as I mentioned before, in the business jet side. So I know that business aviation is my future, as much as I do like the commercial aviation side, and the onesie twosies. I do see some crossover between commercial aviation and business aviation in terms of corporate shuttles that we could have. I mean, the 145s right now are used for corporate shuttles, and that's something that certain companies would want to get off their books and as operating costs. So if a company would come in there and own these assets, I think that's something that is definitely missing, and that could be the crossover between the commercial side and the business jet side. There are some companies right now that are trying to flip certain, I won't say which ones, but certain commercial aircraft into, business jet interiors
Sure.
or business class only. So that's definitely, the middle ground that I see as well. So not necessarily leasing to, that one owner, but leasing to corporations. I see that in my future, and I see that as building up in the next, 5 to 10 years for sure.
That's exciting. I was listening to a webinar earlier today with some titans of the industry that, of course, are all old white guys. And then there's one woman on the panel. And you talk about speaking to your audience, whether it's an online format, something like this, or at an industry event, whether it's an NBAA or a CJI, how are you getting in front of these audiences, and how can other people take part in that too?
So that's actually a great question, and I've touched on it a few times at a few of my talks because a lot of women do ask that question. So it's a great question. What I always say is speak to people when you go to networking events. So the one thing that we do at networking events is we like to stick to the people that we know. And the one thing that I always say is get out of your comfort zone when you do that. So I always challenge myself when I get into these networking events that I need to, depending how big it is, need to meet 3 new people, need to meet 5 new people, or if the guest speaker was someone that really resonated with me, let me go speak to them and get their information. Putting yourself out there is putting yourself in a vulnerable situation for sure, and it's always difficult for a lot of people to be putting themselves in vulnerable situations. But as Brene Brown says, vulnerability is strength. So as you put yourself out there, it does get a little bit easier. When I always tell people, when I'm at an event and I have someone coming up to me and speaking to me, and they're like, I really wanted to meet you, I will never shy away from that person. And I will never be, you know, that I don't really want them to talk to me or something like that. I will always be open to someone coming to me, especially saying those words. I really wanted to meet you. I really wanted to get to know who you are, or, I just wanted to, introduce myself. Those are words that anybody that's receiving those words will appreciate it. So every time that I want to go into a room and I really want to meet someone, even if there's someone a bit more high up than I am, or someone that I've always want to look at, I've always think to myself, how will how would I receive that? So that's always something that's how I put myself out there. That's how I introduce myself. I really wanted to meet you. I read this and that of yours, or I saw your podcast, or something like that. And that's really how I suggest women put themselves out there, and that's how you really connect with different people that get you these opportunities. So it's really with networking that you get these opportunities. It's really with talking to people and putting yourself out there, that I've been lucky enough to be surrounded by amazing people.
And I think you're putting a spotlight right now for all the listeners at home. If you are listening to this podcast and you see Ellie at an industry event, you can make sure you mention that you heard her right here. You
Yeah,
can be sure she's
absolutely.
you're going to get her attention.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, to your point too, I know running into people at other events and networking is a big way to get your voice and your name heard and seen, right? But how we met was actually through a group that you help organize or put together, and I want to learn just a little bit about that and Friends of Aviation. It's more than just a bunch of people hitting golf balls around, but how did you get involved with that, and how has that helped you grow your personal brand and professional brand as well?
Yeah, so I have to give a big kudos to Jack Lambert at Flyhouse and John Mason and John Tongo at Banyan. They were really the ones who started it off. It's called Friends of Aviation. They started off as just a group of guys sitting down, having a few cocktails and getting together for dinner, getting together for golf, and it grew to maybe 25 people when I first joined. And then I was so in awe about it because it's not through it wasn't it changed, but it wasn't through sponsorships. It was just everyone paying their own way because everyone wanted to be there. So it created a different space when people want to be there rather than, you're forced to be there by your company or something like that. So it was really people wanted to
Yeah.
be there. You all became friends with each other. I took it and Jack and the Johns allowed me to run with it. They were like, you're good at this, so yeah, plan it and run with it. So our golf events, we've had 75 people at our golf events. We've had 75 people at our dinners. My mailing list is up to 250 people right now, which is amazing. And it's something that I keep sharing because I truly think that every relationship we've made, like I have a different relationship with everyone that I've spent, 4 or 5 hours with on the golf course. You built up a different connection. You get frustrated on the golf course. You get upset at yourself on the golf course. So your everything is down. Your guards are down. You're you on the golf course, and it's not in a meeting room or a conference room. And I'm not selling you something, you're not selling me something. We're just having a good time. And we both really like aviation and have been in it for quite a while. So that's how you develop really strong relationships. And that's what Friends of Aviation is all about. It's really putting everything down. But then it develops more trustworthy relationships, which
Yeah.
when I want to, when I want to call someone because I have a plane to sell that I need support with or anything possible, I have my network of people that I trust. They could be more expensive, but I would rather work with people that I trust than someone that I don't know and I've never met before. So this network of people has become really strong. It's grown a lot, but we always keep it at a certain level where, you won't see me completely advertising all the time for it because I like it to be, word of mouth. And,
Yeah.
it's a friend of a friend or this person that I met that, should really join. Absolutely. Rarely do we ever get random people coming in. It's really friends of friends that become friends of aviation.
I love that. And thank you for including me in that as well. I think it is a fun group for sure and definitely valuable. Thanks for sharing more about that and being here for all of this today, Ellie. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yes. Anytime. This was great. Thank you so much.
All right, Ellie, thank you so much for joining us on the cross check. Really, really, really do appreciate the insights you've shared with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob and Ian, for having me. I really appreciate it. This was really neat.
And
Absolutely.
a reminder for everyone else to follow us on LinkedIn, like, subscribe, and be sure to share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. Your review or feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us spread the word. Any subject you'd like covered, just leave it for us in the comments below. We will see you all next week with a new episode of The Crosscheck.